What's up everyone, welcome back to Let's Play Bayonetta. In the last episode we completed Chapter 10, and we didn't get a chance to continue talking about Dansan like I wanted, so while we fight the boss here in Chapter 11, the Cardinal Virtue of Justice, Justitia, we're gonna continue that talk. So Dansan, I think I mentioned this, I wasn't able to figure out his full name unfortunately. Kamiya refers to him as Don with the honorific san. And he worked on Devil May Cry with Kamiya. Also, this has kind of been bugging me for a while. If I'm mispronouncing the director Hideki Kamiya's name, if it's supposed to be Kamiya, can you please let me know? Because I've heard it all sorts of different ways, and that always kind of gets to me when I'm not sure if I'm mispronouncing someone's name, especially if I'm using it over and over again. Anyway. So, Dansan worked on Devil May Cry, he worked on God Hand, and of course Bayonetta, and those should all, if you have any doubts about his credibility in his design philosophy, well, everything he's done kind of speaks for itself. So he made a post on the Platinum blog where he outlines a few of his design philosophies, and I think they should be as good as sacrosanct. They should be codified for developers everywhere. And I want to talk about a few of the points he made in his post. Particularly number 3, which is don't make enemies that behave irrationally. And pretty much there he's saying that enemies should be able... They shouldn't read your inputs. They should... Oh, sorry, we have a cutscene. We'll keep talking about that in a moment.
Don't panic. I'm here. There's no need to worry about a thing.
Get them, Mommy, get them!
Mommy?
Can't you see? Mommy's fighting the bad monsters for us. Mister, if you don't open your eyes, you'll miss everything. Look at these!
Shit!
Oh, that ended a little more suddenly than I thought it would. So, to sum what I was saying up, enemies shouldn't read player inputs. They shouldn't attack with attacks that are unavoidable. And Dansan says that he doesn't want enemies who attack in such a way that he himself would never be able to react to, let alone a player. Which I think is a pretty solid basis for programming an enemy AI. Another one of his points was that he wanted to avoid patterns, which is why pattern-based gameplay, which is why not one of the other reasons why we don't have blocking, because it encourages this kind of passive pattern-based gameplay. And I think he cites that it's the reason that in God Hand enemies could block you, but you could not block them. However, you could guard break, which encouraged finding new strategies for dealing with the enemies who could guard. And his next point, which tied into that, was he doesn't so much oversee people playing to see what needs to be tweaked. He spies on... Damn it, another cutscene, hold on.
hell is that thing?
Mommy!
Cerecita, this is way too dangerous.
Well, Kitty, what do you think we should do? He's hurt you, has he? Well, we can't be having that now, can we? Baby.
There we go. So I was saying that instead of closely overseeing play sessions to see what needs to be tweaked in things like the combat, the enemy AI, instead he would watch stealthily. He would make sure that people were doing whatever their go-to, he calls them go-to moves, or if you're a fan of extra punctuation on extra credits. Extra punctuation, also a very good column by Yahtzee. Extra credits. They call it the first order optimal strategy. And Dansan watches very closely for those kinds of go-to strategies, and he will very stealthily implement counters when he sees those strategies come up watching the development team. Because he doesn't want players getting stuck in a groove of just doing one thing repetitiously. And he believes that if you closely oversee someone playing, that they will hide those go-to moves. And when you learn things like that about not only Dansan, but the entire development team at Platinum, who are largely composed of veterans from team, I believe they were Team Little Devils when they were at Capcom, you know, the DMC, the RE, Okami, those teams, or those games and those programmers from that team. You start to see why they make such excellent games with such excellent, particularly excellent combat systems, or core mechanics. Now, as for the boss here, because I haven't talked much about him or her or it, this boss is named Justitia. He is the he, she, or it is the cardinal virtue of justice, which is what the Latin word Justitia is Latin for. And it is one of the creepier enemies in the game. It kind of reminds me of a few things. It reminds me, one, of the final boss from Rise of Nightmare, except luckily in a better game with a better combat system at that. And it also kind of reminds me of the Reliquary of Souls boss fight from Black Temple in WoW. Because it's got, like, if you notice each one of those big tentacly neck head things, the baby faces on each tentacle, they're all different, and they all have distinctive names that match their countenances. And I can't for the life of me remember what their names actually were. It was something like Ire, Melancholy, and I don't remember the other one. So, like I've said before, each boss has an elemental affinity. Fortitudo's was fire, Temperentia's was wind, or... yep, wind works. Let's just leave it at that. And this boss, you could say, is nature or earth or poison. Pick your own poison. Ho ho. So the idea here is that you're fighting each head individually. The tentacles, those spiked, barbed flails will knock around on the ground and hit you. You avoid them, you avoid the gas. Occasionally it'll spit an egg out that you have to destroy because it becomes kind of a hassle to have that extra tentacled monster whacking away at you. And it'll occasionally destroy a platform. Once you get the health down enough, you get this segment like in the Temperentia fight where you can run along the tentacle and go up and do what I just did, which is slice one of them off. And then we eventually get the desperation phase like we did with all the other bosses so far. Also, if you are on one of the platforms that gets destroyed, that'll happen. You'll fall into the pink poisonous miasma, and you'll get a quick triangle, circle, or YB QTE prompt that'll last about a second. If you don't hit it, you die instantly. If you do, then I don't think you take any damage and you're perfectly fine. While I was given that explanation, I am taking so much damage. This fight, it's not bad. This is one of the worst to not have good focus on, though. Because there isn't so much going on at any given time. It's not super chaotic, but what it is you need to pick up on very subtle visual clues, and you have to have good timing for this. So, other bosses, other enemies, you can get away with not having complete and utter focus. This one is a bit more punishing in that regard. So, we're seeing that here. But hey, it lets us show off the very seldom used concocting mechanic. So, thank you, Justitia. You're doing a service to obscure mechanics. Oh, also, I mentioned before, something about some of the faces on the enemies being reused, those big stone angelic faces, and this is one of those cases. I think I mentioned it during Temperentia, that Temperentia might have had a face that was reused from the Beloveds or from Fortitudo. I don't know if I was mistaken then. This is definitely the boss that does do that. And if not for some of the thrifty repurposing here, and I'm talking about the middle face, by the way, if not for some of this thrifty repurposing, this boss would have actually been ultimately cut from the game due to the production schedule. This boss pretty much only exists because they could recycle a few assets and really make good on their remaining development time to keep him in here. Which is pretty cool because he's one of the creepier, more macabre bosses. It's also got a pretty interesting gimmick. Oh, also, about the cutscene that I totally neglected to mention. Did you notice which eye pops off of Cheshire? If you didn't notice, it's the button eye, the left eye. So just keep that in mind. Here we have a climax. Big bloody nose on Justitia. And we are now going to summon our next infernal demon. Take note of the cargo plane that just flew overhead, because I think that is the one that becomes important, or at least it's foreshadowing an upcoming gameplay segment, or an upcoming chapter. Oh yeah, I didn't mention his name yet. His name is, I think, Scolopendra? Scolopendra, the centipede.
Still not enough, you say? You can go another round, can't you?
Lo solo cosisco has non la pilar.
The Lumen Sage.
Ulso, Kalasa, una pala, ulprit arbors, Iosan o Divil Kaba, Kada lunch, Mir Kao.
Man, and that does it for the chapter 11? Yeah, chapter 11 boss fight, the Cardinal Virtue of Justice Justitia. God damn, there was a lot to talk about in that episode. I did not anticipate it. Thought I was going to have more time to get around to things in the order I wanted to get around to them in. So now we're just going to backtrack to the cutscene we saw in the beginning, or the two cutscenes, and what happened in between. So you might have noticed I equipped the Moon of Mahakala, and I showed that off a little bit. What you do to utilize it, it's the parry accessory, as I explained. You just tap the stick forward right as an attack is incoming, and you will shrug it off. I believe you can take damage if you activate it too late, but I'm not entirely certain about that. Also, let's see, so you notice Cereza enchanted the glasses to let Lucas see all the things that she can see, even without the glasses, which again, Cereza is looking like a witch herself. And Luca has this revelatory moment where he's starting to realize that maybe Bayonetta wasn't responsible for his father's death, that maybe his worldview is in need of some reconfiguration. Also, that was the only boss chapter where we started off by fighting lower level enemies. Anyway, that is going to do it for this episode, folks. Be sure to tune in for the next episode. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take it easy. Have a good one.